My greedy mother-in-law was always demanding money and treated me like a servant. One rainy night, I was late coming home from the office, and when I arrived, the house locks had been changed and all my luggage was left on the road. I was shocked. I wanted to approach my husband, but he was favoring his mother. My mother-in-law was still demanding more money, but I refused. I was filled with anger over this reaction. I decided to seek revenge. I left the place and, in the next few days, gave them a shocking surprise. Now they were on the road, requesting justice. My name is Maya, and I'm a 34-year-old marketing executive living in Chicago. I've always been driven and ambitious, pouring my heart into my career. But there's one chapter of my life that has been marked by shadows and turmoil, the chapter that began when I decided to marry Luke. When I first met Luke, he was charming and supportive. At 29, he seemed so eager to help me balance my demanding job and personal life. He would often say, "Maya, you can have it all. I'll always be there to support you." Those words soothed my worries and made me feel that marriage wouldn't take away my independence. I believed in him, and that trust led me to say yes to his proposal. But as we settled into married life, everything changed. I had always enjoyed living alone, managing my own finances, and pursuing my career without limitations. However, after the sudden passing of Luke's father, our lives took a dramatic turn. His mother, who was already a domineering figure, began to rely on me more and more. "Maya, we need to stick together during this tough time," she said, her tone mixing grief with an unmistakable hint of entitlement. I didn't have the heart to refuse her. Soon after, Luke and I moved into his family's home to support his mother and sister, Beth. At first, I thought I could manage it. I believed Luke when he said his mother would take care of household chores while I continued working. But those promises quickly faded. The moment we moved in, my mother-in-law made it clear that I was now just another source of income. "You work hard, Maya, so you should contribute more to the household," she would say, always with that condescending smile. It felt as though my entire identity was being reduced to my salary. Luke, instead of standing by me, began siding with his mother, brushing aside my concerns about how I was being treated. "Mom is just looking out for us," he would insist, unaware, or perhaps unwilling to see, how her demands were suffocating me. The weeks turned into months, and I found myself drowning in responsibilities. My in-laws would leave me notes asking for money, subtly demanding help with their expenses, while treating me like a servant. Beth, Luke's sister, would often add to my frustration. "You know, Maya, it's not fair that you get to work while we handle everything at home," she would say with a haughty laugh. "What kind of wife are you, anyways?" Her words stung, but I tried to shake them off, hoping that things would improve. Yet they only got worse. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I returned home to find my mother-in-law sitting in the living room, arms crossed, waiting for me. I was exhausted and just wanted to unwind, but she had other plans. "Maya, you need to pull your weight. I can't manage this household alone," she said, her tone dripping with impatience. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm doing my best. I work long hours, and I thought we agreed you would help manage things at home," but my words fell on deaf ears. She simply waved me off, reminding me that I was the one who was supposed to contribute financially. As time passed, Luke's behavior began to change too. I noticed he became more engrossed in his social life, often coming home late from parties, leaving me to deal with the chaos alone. When I approached him about it, he would brush me off. "You're overreacting, Maya. Can't you just relax? It's not that big of a deal," he would say, completely dismissing my feelings. One stormy night, after another late day at work, I came home drenched from the rain, exhausted and frustrated. I fumbled with my keys, eager to step inside and finally rest. But when I opened the door, a chill ran down my spine. My belongings were scattered on the porch, my bags tossed carelessly, as if they were garbage. I gasped. "What is this?" I shouted, confusion and anger bubbling inside me. "Luke." I called out, hoping for some explanation, but my voice echoed back at me in the empty house. I turned to find my mother-in-law standing beside the door, a smirk on her face. "You need to learn your place, Maya. You're not welcome here anymore," she said coldly, her voice cutting through the rain like a knife. Luke stepped into view, standing beside her with an indifferent expression. "I can't believe you're making such a scene." "Mom is just trying to teach you a lesson," he said, his eyes avoiding mine. I felt my heart shatter. The man I had trusted to stand by my side had chosen his mother over me, and it was evident he was indifferent to my suffering. "You're both betraying me," I shouted, my voice thick with emotion. That moment was the turning point. I realized I couldn't stay in this toxic environment. I gathered my things, my heart racing with anger and determination. I left the house, the rain soaking me to the bone. But it didn't matter. I was free. As I drove to my parents' home, the weight of betrayal hung heavily in the air. I felt a mix of sadness and anger coursing through my veins. I had spent so long sacrificing my independence for a marriage that had become a prison. I vowed to myself that this would not be the end. No longer would I allow myself to be manipulated. I would reclaim my life, but first, I needed a plan. Arriving at my parents' house, I was welcomed with warmth and understanding. I knew that the time had come for me to take back control. I wouldn't be a victim any longer. Little did they know, a storm was brewing, and soon, my in-laws would face the consequences of their betrayal. The first step was to sever their financial grip on me, but how? As I lay in bed that night, thoughts raced through my mind. I was determined to find a way to fight back. After that stormy night, I found myself at my parents' house, soaking in the warmth of my childhood home. It was a welcome contrast to the chaos I had just left behind. My parents noticed the tension in my eyes and the way I fidgeted with my hands as I spoke about my marriage. They listened patiently, their concern palpable. "Maya, you deserve to be happy," my mother said, her voice filled with compassion. "No one should treat you that way. You've worked hard for your success." I nodded, grateful for their support. It was time to reclaim my life, and I knew I had to devise a plan to break free from the manipulative grip of my in-laws and Luke. The first step was clear. I needed to sever all financial ties with them. I pulled out my laptop and began to sort through my finances. I realized I had been the primary income source for my in-laws and Luke for far too long. I had supported their lifestyle while my own needs were constantly overlooked. I would no longer allow this to continue. "Mom, I need your help," I said one afternoon. "I'm going to consult with a lawyer about my situation and what options I have." "Of course, honey," she replied, her eyes filled with determination. "You need to protect yourself." After a couple of days, I met with a family lawyer named Sarah, who specialized in financial issues and marital disputes. She was sharp and focused, immediately grasping the complexities of my situation. As I described my experiences, I could feel my resolve strengthen. "So, you've been supporting them financially while they've been treating you like a servant?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow. "That's not just unfair, it's abusive. You have every right to demand repayment for what you've given." Her words were a breath of fresh air. "I want to file for divorce," I declared, my voice steady. "I want my financial contributions back, about $150,000, to be precise. They've treated me like a fool, and now it's time they faced the consequences of their actions." Sarah nodded, and we worked together to outline a strategy. We decided to file for divorce and demand the repayment formally. This would send a clear message to Luke and his family that I was serious about reclaiming my life. But I also needed to keep my plans a secret for the time being. I didn't want Luke or his family to get wind of my intentions until I was ready to execute them. Returning to my parents' house, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The more I thought about it, the more empowered I felt. I had spent years bending to the will of my in-laws, but now, I was ready to take control. As I settled into my new routine, I began redirecting any financial support I had previously been sending to Luke and his family. I canceled joint accounts and moved my savings into a secure account solely under my name. It felt liberating to see my money safely stashed away from their reach. "Are you sure you want to do this alone?" my mother asked one evening as we shared dinner. "You could always ask for more help." "I appreciate it, Mom, but this is something I need to do for myself," I replied, determination in my eyes. I need to show them that I'm not just a source of income. I'm a person with my own dreams and aspirations. Days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, my confidence grew. I was no longer the helpless woman who had stood by while her family took advantage of her. Instead, I was taking charge of my destiny. Finally, the day arrived for me to take action. I filed for divorce, and the paperwork included my demand for repayment of the funds I had given them over the years. As I signed the papers, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was time to face the reality of my situation. Shortly after filing, I received a call from Luke. His voice, usually so smooth and charming, now felt tense and uncertain. "Maya, I heard you filed for divorce. What's going on?" I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the confrontation. "Luke, you and your family have manipulated me for too long. I deserve respect, and I'm no longer willing to be treated like a servant. I want what I'm owed." There was a pause on the line, and I could hear him scrambling for words. "You can't be serious. We're family." "Family?" I snapped, my voice rising. "You and your mother treated me like a financial resource. You made your choices, and now I'm making mine. I'm not backing down." After our heated exchange, I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. I knew I was risking everything by standing up to them, but the fear was outweighed by the sense of empowerment that surged through me. I was reclaiming my life, and there was no turning back. Little did Luke and his family know, a storm was brewing, and soon they would face the consequences of their betrayal. The days following my decision to file for divorce were a whirlwind of emotions. I had never imagined I would find myself in this position, but I felt an unexpected thrill at finally taking control. With my lawyer, Sarah, guiding me through the process, I was prepared for the inevitable confrontation with Luke and my in-laws. One afternoon, as I was organizing my documents at my parents' house, I received a text from Luke. "Can we talk? I don't understand why you're doing this," it read. I could feel my heart race as I read the message. I debated whether to respond, but decided I needed to confront him directly. "Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th Street at 3 p.m., I replied, my fingers trembling slightly. I knew this conversation could change everything. When I arrived at the coffee shop, I spotted Luke sitting at a table, looking anxious and out of place. The man who once exuded confidence now appeared vulnerable. As I approached, I noticed the worry etched on his face, and a part of me felt a flicker of sympathy. "Maya, I'm sorry about how everything went down," he began, avoiding eye contact. "But we can fix this. I know things have been tough, but we're family." "Family?" I echoed, my voice steady but firm. "You treated me like a burden, Luke. You sided with your mother, while I worked tirelessly to support us. How is that family?" He shifted in his seat, and for a moment, I saw a glimpse of the man I had fallen for, but it quickly faded. "I didn't know it would get this bad. My mom is just overwhelmed. I thought you could help." "Help? By supporting your mother's demands?" "You made your choice, Luke," I replied, my resolve hardening. "I'm not responsible for your family's financial woes. I've given you enough." Luke's face flushed, and he leaned forward, desperation seeping into his voice. "You don't mean that. We can work it out. You can help us through this." "No, I won't. I've supported you and your family long enough," I declared, my heart pounding. I deserve to live for myself now. I could see the realization wash over him. He had taken my kindness for granted and thought I would always be there to pick up the pieces. "You're making a mistake, Maya. You'll regret this," he warned, but I could sense a hint of fear in his tone. As I left the coffee shop, a mix of triumph and anxiety coursed through me. I was standing my ground, but I also knew the fight wasn't over. It was time to deliver the legal paperwork to his family, and I was ready for their reactions. The following week, I had an appointment with my lawyer to finalize everything. Sarah and I carefully prepared the documents, and I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. That afternoon, I drove to the family home, the place that had felt like a cage for so long. As I approached the front door, my heart raced. I knocked, and within moments, my mother-in-law opened the door, her expression shifting from surprise to anger upon seeing me. "What do you want, Maya?" she snapped, crossing her arms. "I'm here to deliver important papers," I replied, holding out the envelope with trembling hands. "Consider this my final notice regarding the divorce and the repayment of funds." Her face turned crimson as she took the envelope. "You think you can just walk in here and demand money? You're delusional," she shouted. Luke appeared behind her, his expression a mixture of confusion and anger. "What is this?" he asked, his eyes narrowing as he glanced at the envelope. "I'm reclaiming my life, Luke. It's time you and your family face the consequences of your actions," I said, my voice steady despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. As I turned to leave, I could hear my mother-in-law's voice behind me. "You'll regret this, Maya. You'll see." But I didn't look back. I had taken the first step toward my freedom, and I was ready to face whatever came next. This was my journey, and I was finally ready to take control. The storm was just beginning, and I could feel the winds of change swirling around me. After delivering the divorce papers, I felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. I had stepped into the unknown, severing ties with a life that had become unbearable. Yet, a part of me still wondered how Luke and his family would react. I knew I had to brace myself for the fallout. A few days later, I received an unexpected phone call from Sarah, my lawyer. "Maya, I think you should prepare for some pushback. Your in-laws are not taking this lightly. They're planning to contest your claims." Her tone was serious, but I felt a surge of determination. I wasn't backing down. That evening, I sat in my parents' living room, scrolling through my phone when I saw a notification. It was a message from Luke. "Maya, please let's talk. We can work this out. I don't want to lose you." My heart raced, but I quickly reminded myself of all the sacrifices I had made. I typed back, "It's too late, Luke. You had your chance." I hit send and felt a sense of finality wash over me. I was ready to embrace my new life, one free from manipulation and betrayal. Days turned into weeks, and as the divorce proceedings began, the tension escalated. My mother-in-law would call, leaving frantic messages demanding that I return and make things right. She painted herself as the victim, twisting the narrative to suit her agenda. "You're ruining our family, Maya. Don't you care about Luke?" she would scream into the voicemail. Despite her attempts to manipulate me, I stood firm. I refused to engage with their guilt-tripping tactics. My parents supported me every step of the way, reminding me of my worth and how far I had come. "You deserve happiness, Maya. Don't let them pull you back into their chaos," my father would say, and it kept me grounded. As the divorce hearings approached, I prepared myself for the confrontation that awaited. I knew Luke and his mother would come out swinging, and I needed to be ready. In my heart, I felt stronger than ever. I had found my voice, and I wouldn't let anyone silence me again. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. I sat in the courtroom, my heart pounding as I faced Luke and my mother-in-law across the room. They looked defeated, and I couldn't help but feel a flicker of satisfaction. This was my moment. I was reclaiming my life. When it was my turn to speak, I recounted my experiences, how I had supported their family while being treated like a servant, how I had sacrificed my own happiness for their demands. The judge listened attentively, and I could see the shift in the room. Luke looked increasingly uncomfortable, his mother's face a mask of rage and disbelief. After what felt like an eternity, the judge ruled in my favor. "You have every right to seek repayment for your contributions, and I encourage both parties to approach this matter with respect," he said firmly. My heart soared as I realized I had won. Not just the financial compensation, but also my dignity. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was free. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I felt hopeful. I had taken back my power and would no longer allow anyone to define my worth. In the weeks that followed, Luke and his family faced the consequences of their actions. They struggled to maintain their lifestyle without my financial support, and I found a strange sense of satisfaction in knowing they were experiencing the reality of their choices. I began to rebuild my life, focusing on my career and pursuing passions I had set aside for far too long. With every passing day, I felt stronger, more empowered, and in control of my destiny. I had transformed my pain into purpose, and I was determined to embrace a future that was truly mine. Looking back, I realized that the betrayal I had experienced had ignited a fire within me. I had fought through the storm and emerged on the other side, stronger, wiser, and ready to take on the world. This was my new beginning, and I was ready to write my own story.